Γεια σας. Καλώς ήρθατε.
Good evening. I would like to welcome you all. I would like to convey the greetings from the director of the Cervantes Spanish Institute. I work at the Cervantes Institute based in Greece, based in Athens. Our director wanted to be here amongst us to attend the book fair, but unfortunately she couldn't make it after all. So I would like to convey her warm greetings. And I would like to say that Cervantes Institute and the Spanish Embassy are working hard for 2028 so that Spain will be the country of honor in the Thessaloniki International Book Fair. Good evening to you all. I'm Phaedon Kidoniatis. I'm an editor. Please allow me to speak in English.
Great. It's a privilege, actually, for the first time, because it's his first time in Greece, to welcome José Manuel Anta, who is the General Director of the Federation of Spanish Publishers. And the topic, and we have to thank the organizers, our host, the Hellenic Foundation for Book and Culture. The topic is of this discussion dialogue, of this presentation, is the Spanish phenomenon. So, as I have been asked by some colleagues coming here, what exactly is the Spanish phenomenon? The Spanish phenomenon, we call this phenomenon where in many different countries, sales of books is becoming more and more challenging. You know, how to create new readers. And in contrasting with most countries, not to say all, we have this phenomenon where book sales in Spain are going up. And in general, Spain has developed into becoming a global player in the book market. And we Greeks, and not only Greeks, we want to see why this is happening and whether we can imitate some best practices. Before we continue, allow me to give the credits of the titles. The Spanish phenomenon, some of you may have met Enrico Turin, who is the Deputy Director of FEP, the Federation of European Publishers. Every year in Frankfurt, it's a landmark event where he presents all the statistics from different European countries. And because exactly we had this kind of anomaly, Spain was going the other direction. He could not explain, so we call this the Spanish phenomenon. He's the godfather of the term. Thank you very much for being here. I suggest we start with a presentation by José. You give us some data, some numbers, and then we can have a dialogue, or we can actually accept some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I would stand up. So first of all, I would like to thank the Hellenic Foundation, Instituto Cervantes. It's really a big honor and a big pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me here in Thessaloniki. My first time in Greece. I'm so sorry. It's a sin that I have to try to correct. So, well, as Phaedon said, I prepared a short presentation about that. We call it Spanish phenomenon, that our friend Enrico Turin has the copyright. And I have to say that even nowadays, the Spanish press and the international one using this title. So it's becoming a kind of marketing campaign, not decided, not prepared, but it's that way. So I will start with some data about the Spanish book market, some characteristics, some trends for your general information. As Phaedon said, I represent the Spanish Federation of Publishers. It's quite interesting in our case because the Spanish Federation of Publishers joins the main regional association of publishers. We don't have direct relation with the companies, with the publishing houses, but with the 9 regional associations that we are inside the federation. And below these regional associations, we have around 900 publishing houses in Spain. So some data for have the kind of framework about how is the development of the Spanish book market. So we have around 3,000 publishing houses, small ones. As I told you, in part of the association are almost 1,000, but only 9 have a turnover of more than 60 million euros. And indeed, there are 2 big companies that represent nowadays around 50% of the market, that are Planeta, that is here also, that is a big Spanish player with presence in Latin America, and Penguin Random House. So between these 2 companies is almost 50% of the market. So we have 2 big players and a lot of small and medium-sized publishers. Regarding distribution, we have around 100 distributors and wholesalers. It's too much. There are a lot of concentration during the last years, but even it's a number very high in comparison with Germany or France or Italy even. And in terms of books points of sales, we have 4,300, including there are 3,000 bookshops. Bookshops, considering that sells more than 60% of the turnover comes from books. They sell other kind of products, but 3,000. I have to say that we have a very healthy network of indie bookshops in Spain. We can see there. We have a legislation from 2007 that recognized the fixed price. It's very similar to the French one, the Loi Lang. So we have fixed price in whole the country with a maximum discount of 5% and 10% in the case of book fairs as this one. And the VAT is 4%, both for print books and digital books. This is general data about the last data that we have. And, well, as I mentioned this morning, we have every year we release a report on the Spanish book market with the data that come from the publishing houses, and it's this one. As you can see, this is data from 2024, and we will present next month the data from 2025. So we have almost near to 90,000 titles every year. The available titles is near to the 1 million, but I have to say that, considering the last 8-10 years that we considered available titles of this copies per title is 3,500, copies produced, copies sell out, and the returns at 16 million copies. It's around 27-28% the tax of returns. And we have a general turnover of 3 billion euros. Considering the internal market, only the case of Spain, is not considering the foreign trade of books. And billions, sorry, it's 3 billion. It's 3 billion. 3 billion, yeah. And digital represents not more than 5-6%, including audiobooks. So it's not too much regarding the digital part of the market. And this is the evolution of the last 10 years, but if we take the photograph 15 years, it's a continuing growth. And last year we recovered the 3 billion euros that we don't have these figures. I have to say that we recovered the same level that we have 15 years ago, because with the consumption crisis of 2008, the financial crisis, was a decrease of the total market. So every year we recover, and I have to say that one of the good effects of the pandemics, this nightmare that we have, but one of the good effects was an amazing growth of the book market, the reading figures and the turnover figures for the book sector. And that's continued during the last 5 years. So we return to these 3 billion euros for the internal market. That's the reason why they told that the Spanish phenomenon, because it's the only country in Europe with this growing during the last 15 years. Even the Spanish press is using this term. The last World Book Day on 23 April, there is the Spanish phenomenon on the press, etc. So as I told you, it's a kind of marketing campaign that we have. Why the Spanish phenomenon? And this is part of my personal consideration. I don't know the receipt because he's had the receipt. I will be in a contract with the Greek government or the Bulgarian government, or so. This is my personal opinion on the why this growing during the last years. First, reading habits. So as you can see, there is a continued growing. We release also this kind of study every year, considering reading habits in Spain, and especially the young people is reading more than ever. That is a different question that we have in mind. Are the young people that is reading more? Maybe because there is a connection between the school, the libraries, the reading campaigns. There are good books produced by the publishers. There are different scenarios, but this is a reality, and especially women that reading is a question of women with a difference of 10 points in all the categories. Okay, so this is one of the question. And again, thinking about the public side of the sector, during the last 12, 15 years, there are different reading plans, even with the change of government, that all follow with this support of the libraries, support of the schools, support of the presence of the book near to the citizens, make available the books. That's a very good collaboration between the public sector and the private sector. This is the 3 last reading plans, and indeed next month in June will be presented the next plan, reading plan, that is every 4 years there is a new version of the reading plan, and will be presented next month of June. And talking about make available the books for the audience, for the citizens, was, and Nelson's particular opinion, the incredible amount of reading festivals, fairs, not only the 2 biggest that are the more knowledge, I mean the Feria del Libro de Madrid, the Madrid Book Fair. It's an open space, almost 2 million people that visit the fair, is the first one. During 17 days, you are invited. At the end of May, 29 May will be the inauguration. So it's an amazing place in the Central Park in Madrid, and it's a festival. That this year is the 83 edition of the fair, so it's a tradition in Madrid especially. And in the case of Barcelona, the more notice is San Jordi. It is 23rd April. That is just one day. Today is released the figures of turnover of San Jordi, and was 27 million euros in one day. Yeah, I recommend you also to visit San Jordi because all the city lives for the book. There is this gifts of books and roses that is, and I think that is a tradition because it's the International World Book Day, and we're talking why don't support this festival across the globe of the Irish are the St. Patrick's Day. So what better than the Rose and Book Day across the globe, because it's International World Book Day. So I recommend you also to visit Barcelona on 23rd April, because if you like books and you like culture, it's the place to be. Well, this is some detail and turnover regarding the different categories that I mentioned first. Especially the growing was regarding children books, young and adults books. Also for us in Spain is very important the educational and test books that represents around 20-25% of the total turnover, with big players that are active nowadays in Spain, and also with branches in Latin America, companies as Santillana, Anaya, SM. Santillana nowadays is part of the Sanoma group. Anaya is part of the Shed group, so big players, but also with a very important presence in Latin America. And talking about the foreign trade of books, so this is the evolution of the book exports. It's not the same, it's not the replicated Spanish phenomenon regarding the foreign trades, considering that our main exports go to Latin America, the Spanish-speaking countries. So pandemics, the recovery from the pandemics is not the same that in Europe, in comparison with countries as Mexico, Argentina, and Colombia, that was the recovery for the book sector was less than the rest of the world, especially in Europe. But we are, well, more or less flat during the last, but it's in any case, it's almost 400 million euros that are selling directly from Spain to mainly Latin America. And the imports that we have also regarding books. Okay, so we have a good balance, different almost 200 million people of positive foreign trade balance. But the important point is this one. For the Spanish publishing houses, there are a lot of, especially the big players, that are based directly in Latin America with branches, and that represents almost over 4 billion euros that is produced in Mexico, in Argentina, in Colombia, in Peru, in Brazil, etc. So for us, Latin America is part of our culture, the heritage, and the connection. I always say that we are lucky in terms that we are a kind of bridge between Europe and Latin America. This is the active that we have as country, as Spain. So that's the reason why our presence in Latin America, even as federation, we participate in the main book fairs in Latin America, as Guadalajara. Recommend you also to visit Guadalajara Book Fair. This amazing fair, really beautiful. Well, José knows very well Guadalajara, and it's amazing the kind of young people visiting the fair, the schools, even in the professionals day, young people is waiting for the open of the doors to go inside to check for books. Amazing. So if you have the opportunity, visit Guadalajara at the end of November, standard December, but also in Buenos Aires and Bogota are two very important fairs for us. And there is this kind of bridge also between Spain and Latin America. And there are, using technology, a lot of small and medium-sized Latin American publishers that are opening branches in Spain. So nowadays it's normal that a Mexican company, even small and medium-sized, has its headquarters in Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, and also in Madrid or Barcelona, or from Colombia or from Peru, doing business across the Atlantic. This is an example from the Spanish press. And I always say, well, petrol is a word that we use a lot these days. And I always say that our petrol as country, talking as Spaniards, is our language. So our language is the second language used across the globe after Chinese only, even more than English, talking about first language, okay? Because as first language, okay, it's US, UK, but not all in the rest of the countries. So our petrol is the language. This is an active that we have. Because 600 million people around the world speak Spanish as first language. And in a lot of countries, it's becoming the second language in terms of studies, in terms of business. So this is even following questions as the music. Everybody knows Shakira, everybody knows Rosalia, everybody knows Bad Bunny, and you know, all these Becky G, all this kind of singer. Also the audiovisual was doing very well regarding films, regarding serials. So the publishing sector, we have also the responsibility to follow this trend of the Spanish as a trendy language across the globe. Well, you know, talking about Bad Bunny, you remember the show on the, well, I don't know, I don't understand Bad Bunny even, but I have to say that after the show in the Super Bowl, for instance, in Duolingo, the interest in Spanish grew 35% in terms of courses. Yeah, 35%. So that's the kind of opportunities that we have as language, as publishers, we have to use. And even this is real data from the biggest distributor, wholesaler across the globe, that is the US-based England, but active in a lot of countries. This is the number of titles in Spanish that England sold across the globe. Not number of copies, number of titles. So for sure, there are Spanish-speaking countries where England sells, but also countries as France, Germany, India, or Brazil, or China, or Sweden, etc. So England is looking for Spanish content, and the world is looking for Spanish content. Our role, my role in that case, is becoming also our institution as ambassadors of the publishing sector across the globe. Because we have to business at the international level: selling Spanish books or selling rights, as the edition first. And talking about selling rights is not so good. Here we have a problem, because this is data from the last 15 years, and as you can see, it's almost flat, the sale of rights. I mean, publishers, Spanish publishers, that sells rights across the globe. And it's not a question of quality or talent or something like that. I'm sure of that. It's a question even of to be present in First Thessaloniki or other international fairs. Apart, maybe, it's my opinion, we have the big place of Latin America, and maybe, okay, we have this big continent, we sold a lot of books there, so why open this area of the sale of rights? But we have to do it. We have to do it. It's a part of our activity nowadays. This is the main trace that we have, considering, I mean, we sell especially to English, French, German, and there are other languages like Italian. Unfortunately, it's not Greeks, but I'm sure that also talking about bridge, we have to create this bridge with our colleagues from Greek in order to buy Greek books and also sell Spanish rights to the Greece publishing sector. And talking about rights, I mean, I like very much the structure of the fair because I feel very familiar, because it's quite similar to our Liber book fair. I'm talking about the Madrid book fair, that is an open fair for the citizens, but we have also a pure professional book fair at the end of September, starting in October, first to the Frankfurt book fair, that the name is Liber. And Liber is 1 year in Madrid and the following year in Barcelona. This year will be in Barcelona. And talking about this situation of the sale of foreign rights, last year we started a right center in Liber for the first time, probably because we don't need to sell rights, as I mentioned. There is a lot of people that come to the fair from Latin America, but mainly distributors, booksellers, libraries, etc. So we are trying to attract publishers from Europe in order to become this bridge between Europe and Latin America. So we will have a fellowship program, about 60 fellowship kits for the Barcelona Book Fair, sorry, for Liber, this year in Barcelona. So I hope that some of the Greek publishers can attend the Liber Book Fair at the end of September in Barcelona. And other questions regarding this Spanish phenomenon, from my point of view, that are interesting. I talk about the indie book shops and the good performance of the indie book shops. I have to say that, for instance, in Spain, Amazon is active. I know that here in Greece is not Amazon active. Amazon nowadays represents around 25%, 27% of the total market in Spain, even with fixed price. So it's becoming the big bookseller. But I have to say that the indie booksellers trying to create some kind of balance with Amazon. For instance, they create some years ago a platform, an e-commerce platform owned by the indie book shops, in order to, if you want to buy your books, because the price is the same. It's a question of I don't want to buy by Amazon, I want to buy by my indie book shop. So there is an alternative in order to have this balance. I think that makes sense. And that's also represents that the distribution side of the business, distributors and wholesalers, has to invest during the last years a lot in order to fulfill this necessity of the bookshops and all the whole book sector. This is the case of Logista, that is the main distributor in Spain, is 50% owned by Planeta Group, and he invests a lot of money regarding to make arrive the books in less than 24 hours, e-commerce facilities, amazing warehouse, technical with logistics, etc. So it's also very important during the last years, the investment on distribution as part of this success also, in order to make available the book, any kind of book, and in the less time possible. And finally, some examples of collaborations projects. Was also very important, the collaboration that we have. Apart with the government, apart with the Ministry of Culture, inside the sector, the collaboration that we have, the Association of Publishers, Distributors, Booksellers, some examples that talking about protocols and good practices maybe could be useful for our Greek friends. This is all the panoplia. I don't know if it's usage here, panoplia, that we use it also in Spain. It's a Greek word, I know. So the panoplia of different tools, technical tools, technological tools that we have, that comes from the sector, it comes from the associations. We have an EDI system in order to interchange normalized documents, an invoice, an order, a return, change of price, etc. We call it Sinly, is the first one. So we create our own system of connection between the different players. We call it the book supply protocols, is the CSL, Cadena Suministro Libro. That's protocols in order to give a kind of feel of and a structure for all the companies that are active in the sector. Talking about how to manage a return, how to use a code bar, some recommendations that we have on protocols. There are 11 protocols nowadays, and I use it for the whole industry and was very active and was very practical in that sense. This is the metadata management tool. This morning, I don't remember the name of the Greek one. This is with all the offers that are available of print books in Greece. Biblionet. Our Biblionet is Dilbe, that is manager for the Spanish Federation. It's almost 2 million titles, metadata, and 65% are with rich data. I mean, covers, synopsis, resume, etc. And one of our obligations nowadays is make available this metadata across the globe. I mean, this is the books available that are in Spanish. TodosTusLibros.com, allyourbooks.com, that is the platform that I told you that created by the booksellers in order to compete with Amazon. It's an e-commerce platform. And finally, LibriRed. You mentioned this morning Phileas from our French colleagues. This is our Phileas, LibriRed. It's a sellout tool developed by the Association of Booksellers in order to give information. There are nowadays 1,000 booksellers that are reporting every day the data about the books that are passing for his machines, for his control, and then report. And this information is very useful for publishers, distributors, especially the small and medium-sized publishers. Talking about Dilbe, that is responsible of our federation. Well, as you can see, there are almost 2 million titles that is available, and nowadays we are in a project to make available across the globe all this information. If there is some, I don't know, bookseller, distributor, even publishers that want to access to Spanish metadata, this is the place to do, Dilbe. Okay, if you need some information, more than happy to help you on that. And finally, this is one of the projects talking about also this morning that we are very proud, because it's the first school for the whole book ecosystem that was created 3 years ago with the support of the Ministry of Culture. Again, this collaboration between the private and public institutions. The name is Parix. Parix is a German guy that arrives in Spain in the 16th century. Is the first printer that comes from the Gutenberg cycle. Johannes Parix is the name. And was a school that we have nowadays more than 50 courses, online courses, for questions as social media for the book sector, how to make pitches for the presentation of books to audiovisual festival, for instance, this morning, how to give trainee to the publishers on that field, or regarding audiobooks, or especially regarding the evolution and the new necessities of the professionals. And more than 5,000 professionals of the book sector in Spain are using these courses. That in that part was resources from the ministry, so were free. And there is a lot of people, professionals and also students from the university that want to become his professional career in the book sector, and they are doing these courses. So I recommend, it's in Spanish, but if you visit parix.es, you can check all the courses. The school will be open to Latin America starting June. So there is a lot of interest in Latin America also to start with this course. So we're very happy regarding these courses. And finally, well, some Sorry? No, it's not. No. Regarding innovation, and for instance, here's my friend Michalis that attend Read Magin. I invite you, everybody, to come to Read Magin, end of May. The 2 days before the inauguration of the Madrid Book Fair, we organize, this is the 13th edition, an international meeting on innovation on book sector and reading. In English, 100%. It's an international event that we organize in Madrid. 50% of the attendees are foreigners, as Michalis know very well. Thank you, Michalis, for coming. You are part of the Read Magin community. And this year we have an amazing program. If you have the opportunities for free, okay, you have to come to Madrid. It's not a bad place to be at the end of May. I had to recommend you. So check the website because the program is amazing and you are always invited. And the place that we organize this meeting is this amazing place that is in the old central market in Madrid that nowadays is recovery for cultural industries, for dance, for theater, for music, for cinema, and also for the book sector with a foundation. Nothing more from my side. This is the book institutions in Spain that maybe you need regarding the information. All the reports that I show are available, unfortunately, in Spanish, but in this is the Spanish Book Publishers Federation, the distributors, the booksellers, the Publishers' Rights Center, and the Ministry of Culture. I know that Jesus Gonzalez from the Ministry will be here tomorrow, explaining more detailed the public projects and public programs that they have regarding translation, regarding subsidies, etc. Echaristos, thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Jose. It was very interesting, I think, for all, very illuminating, slightly depressing on how we're doing here for us. I think we are a bit, I don't know, a few years behind you guys. An easy explanation would be the petrol, the Spanish language, yes, because they address to, and we, you know, we have gold in our language, but it's a small language, the Greek language. So, but again, I think there are structural characteristics that, you know, regardless of the size, the pace is there. Yes, the pace of growth, the structure, the good collaborations. So I think there is a lot for us to learn. It's quite useful.
I had to say, talking about language that not so big as Spanish, you had to consider the structure that we have as country. So Spain has 4 official languages. For sure, Spanish is no outside Spain, but inside Spain, we call it the Spanish, we call it Castilian, because it's the language of the central of the country. But there are other 3 languages, more reduced, Catalan, Catalonian, Galician, from the Northwest, and Basque. They are doing very well in terms of the promotion of the language across the globe, inside Spain, and this is responsible of the regional governments that I have to say that are very powerful in Spain, the regional governments, in order to foster the presence of the language, for sure, in the region, but also in order to sell books. And for instance, a very good example are the Catalonians that are very active in order to attract foreign publishers, to sell rights, to buy rights, to be present across the globe in different international book fairs, London, in Bologna, in Paris, etc. So it's a reduced book, but it's an implication of the regional government to make available this and make notice about this, and is especially Catalonia. This is a rich region, is doing very well on that.
I mean. You know, for each of the initiatives, we could talk for hours because there are many things for us to learn or imitate. Without, of course, having the deep knowledge of the market, I think it's amazing what you have done with the collaboration network. So the publishers, the federations, the government, at regional level and federal level. somehow is this was a tradition? Has it been a systematic effort? This kind of, you have a web, not just a network of different relations,
Yeah.
and somehow you support each other.
Yeah, I think that we have the structure, because a part of these institutions that I mentioned, we have another institution that there is the Spanish Book Chamber. It's similar to the Volksverein from the German, but it's publishers, distributors, booksellers, and printers included in the same structure. So, for instance, was very active during pandemics in order to the collaboration with the government and with the different ministries. So this is the structure, but at the end depends also of the persons and the teams. So that's my particular opinion, but during the last 10, 12 years, there's the coincidence of different persons in the ministries, in the different associations that go ahead, that push to go together. Then, for sure, there are questions that don't depend on us. I mean, arrives the pandemics, people is inside his home and forget about the screens, return to the reading, return to the books, return to the print books, and I suppose that in Greece was very similar, that growing the dates on the figures of the turnover of the market. So this is questions that are outside the decision and outside the plans, but our responsible if this active that has created, as the Spanish, trying to protect and trying to adapt, trying to evolve. This is the real responsible of the organizations and the institutions. With this active that we have, trying to go ahead and renew it, renewal and refurbish and make available for everybody. Yeah.
I just want to point out that your federations, publishers,
Yeah.
to make our own critique as Greek publishers, you have developed professional organizations, which is very important. You're CEO, you're not a publisher. You're
I'm not a publisher.
So people, professionals who have studied management, economics, and you work for the whole sector, which is very important. It's something we haven't invested on this to produce,
I'm lucky because first to arrive to the Federation of Publishers, my expertise, I worked for almost 18 years in the Federation of Distributors. So I know the commercial side of the business, the retail, the distributors. We visit all the main European markets, knowing the structure of the booksellers, the distributors, even in the US. And we have this international network of people, amazing as José Borghino, etc. And now it's easy that way, and also with the rest of the institutions that are, and also again with the support of the Ministry of Culture that is very active regarding these ideas that we show. So I think the arrival of professionals, the arrival of talent, also one of the responsibles that we have. I use also the word of the school that I told you, that I think is one of the problems of the sector. The publishing sector is considering not so cool in terms of technology, advance, evolution. So our responsible is attract young talent that want to participate in this sector as is also a cool sector in terms of innovation, in terms of evolution, in terms of new things. It's not the old idea of the old-fashioned ways of the public sector. We need this young talent to come in order to refurbish, because the challenges are important.
And at a national level, when Spain designs book policies, is it the Ministry of Culture that is the main stakeholder?
Yeah, at international level, for instance, regarding the guest of honor, that is the Ministry of Culture, I have to say that is very active in the years on the guest of honor and present in international book fairs. 4 years ago, we are guest of honor in Frankfurt, that is the Olympiatis of, again, a Greek word, of the book sector. But then after Frankfurt, we go to Guadalajara, guest of honor in Guadalajara, we're guest of honor in Colombia, we guest of honor this year in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and next year in Buenos Aires in Argentina.
Does it make a difference? You see change, you see some new dynamics every time you are a guest of honor somewhere?
Especially after Frankfurt. is also one of the engines for the. I mean, there is a very important program, for instance, regarding translation, regarding present of Spanish publishers, Spanish authors also, and was a really big event. Even Guadalajara also with a very important presence. And the ministry is well. Let's hope. Let's cross finger that probably here in Thessaloniki in some years we become also guest of honor. Let's think. But it's part of the policy of the ministry nowadays. That depends of the embassies, of the ministry, etc. And then we collaborate with publishers. The private sector collaborate with the participation. Next step is Sao Paulo in September. So we are collaborating in the design of the pavilion, the authors that will be present, the publishers that will be present, the professional program. So it's a good collaboration of private and public sector.
So it's a whole network, a whole ecosystem of different stakeholders, and somehow it works well, correct?
That's right, that's right. For instance, tomorrow will be here Jesus Gonzalez, as I told you, from the Ministry of Culture, and Jesus and I, we collaborate almost every day in different areas, in different activities, in different commissions, for instance, regarding translation, regarding supports to the booksellers, so apart, there are also representatives from the Booksellers Association, from the Distributors Association, from the Authors Association, collaborating with the ministry in the different programs.
I was surprised. I know where Amazon goes in every country, you know. Immediately there is a kind of problem that has a huge market share. I was surprised that with a fixed price, in Spain it's already 27%?
Around 25%. They don't give official figures. But this is the data that we consider.
And may I ask, this Spanish phenomenon, if we go to booksellers only, forget about publishers, how do they do, the bookseller?
This is a good point. I mean, I mentioned in the presentation that we have a healthy network of booksellers. And probably, well, the first is the fixed book price. Is the first barricade that means protection for the bookshop. Then the bookshop has to also doing things better in terms that is, for instance, during the last year there is a change that a lot of booksellers were created in the 70s and 80s of last century. So people arrive to, retire it, and there is a big problem to maintain these bookshops. So another example, the Association of Booksellers create an office in order to make the transition from the person that has to leave the bookshop to select somebody that want to follow the business in order to maintain the bookshop. Then there is a lot of courses and activity for the upskilling and reskilling the booksellers. In the school that I mentioned, there are 3, 4, 5 specialized courses for the booksellers, how to manage in terms of financial, in time also use of social media. So it's also part of give tools to the booksellers in these challenges that they have. And especially in regions as Catalonia and Galicia, the number of bookshops is, there are bookshops that are closed, but open a new brand of bookshops, and we try to maintain with this this kind of evolution and maintaining of the old bookshops, but with new people, young people that takes the old one. That's what amazing was created 2 years ago by the ministry in collaboration with the booksellers and also with support of the main publishing groups, because the publishers need also this balance between big players as Amazon, but also a healthy booksellers network.
That's an impressive example. You know, how you do the transition between.
I have to
we
say
have
that
the same problem here. People are retiring.
In Spain nowadays, indie bookshops represent around 35-40% of the total market. And then if you added bookshop chains, it's another 20%, 25%. So it's healthy. I mean, Amazon is the biggest player. It's only Amazon 25, but the rest are, I mean, it's a quite balance. I mean,
it's healthy, it's a viable mix. Another issue that I think it's the same in every country, you know, as generations grow older, and I've seen some statistics from Germany recently, we kind of have demographic problems of readers. people below 30, they don't read as much. How do you address this problem, and whether this is included in this market growth that was described as Spanish phenomenon?
Well, I have to say, I always say that.
Young people, how do you encourage readership?
Yeah, that is a very good point, because I mentioned that in Spain there is a country of young readers, and probably one of the reasons is the quality. I mean, it's a responsible of the publishers that has to consider the product, because even print products is a technology. We think about technology only regarding digital, but paper and books is also a technology. For instance, I'll give you an example, and it's a source of innovation also. For instance, I don't know here in Greece, but in Spain it was amazing the number of copies of books for young people with decorated side of the book. Probably you know this kind of collection that you include all the books, and it's a design of a fountain or a fairy or something like that. So it's amazing the number of a part of the content is also there are beautiful objects that could be a kind of collection on that field. And that's for young people that was amazing the number of copies sell of this kind of books. Or the comics, amazing, manga, comics, all this universe was grow very fast during the last 5-7 years. And the people that like comics, young people, don't want digital. They have a physical, they need to be paper, they have to pass so they are very proactive regarding paper. So paper is also a technology, and it's an innovation that we have to evolve and innovate on that.
And I also know you include libraries in the whole game, correct?
Yeah, for sure. And then there is that depends on for instance, in the libraries there is a very important issue. There is there is a network of libraries that depend of the Ministry of Culture. This is from the state. But as I mentioned, there is the regional side that is also regional network of libraries, and the municipality. I mean, that depends of the cities. All these three networks are very active. But then we are pushing, and probably we have some deficit on that side, that is the libraries in the schools. This is one of the key factors. The connection between the students, the schools, and the available of books in order to read and bring the books at home. And that means investment for the public, not only for the Ministry of Culture, but this is also responsible of the Ministry of Education. We need to be connected. Nowadays in Spain, the Ministry of Culture is a part of the Ministry of Education, so we need the connection between the two ministries, but because this link regarding reading and education is a key factor nowadays.
Okay, we have, I don't think 55 minutes. Yeah, I know. Time is limited, so many questions, especially as publishers we have our own agonies, but also here we have government officials, etc. So it's... We will all be there. They have excellent wine there. Our colleagues Bulgarians, we will not miss that. Really, this is useful for us, you know. We don't have the petrol of the Spanish language, so we have to look for nuclear power, you know. Is there a question? I think we have 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes, yes. José Felix Borghino.
Borghino Salla. Thank you very much, José Manuel. And thank you, Phaedon, for such good questions as well. One of the things that struck me when you came to the IPA's Education Publishers Forum meeting a couple of years ago in London, I think it was, you gave us an overview of what's happening in the education field in Spain. And one of the things that jumped out at me, and possibly one of the explanations for that growth, and especially the growth or the maintenance of young people reading, is that you told us that in the curriculum, in the Spanish curriculum, there was the requirement for readers, for students in the primary sector to have 1 hour of reading per day. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
You had to consider, again, the structure of my country. 17 regional governments. And if, for instance, in the case of education, the education matters are outsourced to the regional. So the Ministry of Education in terms of curriculum don't match too much. I mean, depends of the regions. So there are 17 different models. That could be in some regions of Catalonia or Galicia, but it's a responsible of the regions to decide decide the books, decide the model of digital textbooks, and also decide the policy for reading in each country. A part of these state plans, there are a very active policy of regional governments. In some of the regions, that's right. This is one of the reasons also. So the point is that the state gives the general and healthy framework for all the regions in order to foster the reading, as you mentioned. And again, link it with education. That is one of the key factors nowadays.
So that's something maybe the Greek publishers and education ministry can look into, because to me it's a no-brainer that if you ask kids to sit down and read for half an hour even every day, you build some connection with the word on the page that is very useful for publishers.
That's right, and for that it's important to have educational libraries in the schools, because you need books to have this 1 hour of reading.
And reading is a habit, it's a culture. You cannot simply do a seminar and suddenly they like reading. It's something they have to grow up. I'm afraid time is limited. That's the problem with fairs always. They're a bit, all the events are fast. Maybe we should organize a conference at some point, just with professionals, a bit more academic.
During winter in our new premises and the very old Athens at the center of downtown Athens, under the Acropolis, to come and to present how you can increase the reading habits.
Yeah, indeed, in this Read Magin event that we have at the end of May will be the presentation of the Ministry of Culture of Spain of this new reading plan, and also the UK plan that you know the British present starting January a new reading plan. So we will do a kind of benchmark between the two plans, and so it's the moment to visit Madrid to hear about these reading plans at the end of May.
Thank you very much. For us, it's very useful.
Thank you. Has to be useful. Thank you very much, and keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is
Phaedon.
short, fast, but for us even to hear
No, it's my pleasure. So
we are
let's continue the conversation.
of
It
the
will be great.
record where